this is the panel. I've been really looking forward to this since we had a ski cutting array in the very first issue of TAR. This year, TAR, the Avalanche Review. You don't know that, then you should probably subscribe. But what? It's not a hint. I'm telling them what to do. They should be used to it by now. But do you want me to just introduce you and then you'll introduce the panelists?
Whatever you want, Lynn. You're in charge.
That should take 45 minutes. That's all.
Shut up. All right, here's you. This is Brenden Cronin. If you don't know Cronin, and you've been living under a rock. Cronin lives here, and he lives with the, let's say better half is Jen Reddy, and Cronin, yeah. And he started, what did you start as? Did you start as a snowmaking dude?
Yeah.
Snowmaker at the village, and snowcat ski guide with Weeks up on Togety. I bet he learned a lot there. Weeks, I'm looking at you. Where are you, Red Side? And then he clawed his way up to be an AI instructor, which is where we crossed paths. Did me a solid. We'll tell you over beers later. And then he has worked his way into being WYDOT Avalanche guy, and now he has his own company, managing and inserting and programming rack systems. I didn't know you were that smart, Cronin. He's been waiting for this, but he really is that smart, even though you might not get it on the first round. Cronin, introduce you. Hey. Second round, though. Yeah, you know how smart this kid is. All right, love you, kid.
Thank you. Everyone give it up for Lynn Wolf, please. I couldn't come up with a quick rebuttal, but I'll get you by the end. Don't worry about it. Get off the stage, Lynn. See, they turned your mic off. So thanks, everybody, for coming out for this. And, you know, I've pushed for years to allow drinking before the panel. And lo and behold, we finally did it. And now I have to moderate that. So with that being said, I'm really excited not only for this group, but for audience participation at the end, or maybe during, which I'm pretty sure will kind of happen organically. So what do we got? 2 people up here who have not presented today. So I'll introduce them, or 3, excuse me. Morgan's here as well. So Morgan McGlashon, ex-mountain guide, born and raised here. As Mark pointed out earlier, she was one of the smart people that didn't leave. We got Duncan Lee, and pro snowmobiler, avalanche educator, and also spent a lot of time skiing and snowboarding. And one thing I noticed right away when talking with Duncan before this was the fact that the whole idea of a ski cut or a sled cut for a lot of people and operations is somewhat similar. And sitting next to me is one of the most recent recipients of an IFMGA pin. This is... No. I mean, I got a bunch of nicknames for you, but yeah. Lisa Van Sciver and I were both ski patrollers at Jackson Hole. She is still a ski patroller at Jackson Hole. Some of the patrollers in here would call me a quitter. I would argue I just wasn't rehired. So with that being said, I want to add some context to all of this. So this whole ski panel, or ski cutting panel came up, and the first question was rec or pro day. And as you can imagine, just looking around the room, there's a lot of opinions, and we landed on the pro day because we wanted to recognize that a lot of the folks in this valley are like very high-level recreationists. And a lot of it stemmed from what we're going to get into in this panel of what it is. So the panel previously was also named like ski cut, avalanche. Are we avalanche avoiders or avalanche mitigators? And I just didn't really like the name, so I changed it. And I changed it to ski cutting test or tool. And so before we get into it, I do actually want to have some audience participation, and we're going to ask you to stand up, but not yet. I want you to stand up if you've ever done a ski cut. Nice. Now, I want you to stay standing if you've ever triggered an avalanche with a ski cut. I want you to stay standing if you have ever been caught in the avalanche that you cut. Now, the people that are left standing, if you would identify as a professional, I want you to raise your hand. Right, so it's kind of telling, right? If you look around the room, the majority of the people that were caught in avalanches and raised their hand were professionals. So you guys can sit down now. Thanks for that. I hope you don't kick your beer over on the way down. So we want to, or I'll start and eventually I'll stop talking, I swear. Somebody said to me, like what I'm seeing right now, and this is a 20-plus year professional, he said the things I'm seeing now aren't ski cuts, where people are like crossing these slopes and they're just kind of like bouncing along. This person felt very strongly that a ski cut is like a defined safe zone, and you're hauling ass, and you're laying in like a hammer of a ski cut or a sled cut, and then you're out to a safe zone. And so that'll kind of give a little background of where this can go. And then a quote I read recently in the TAR that Lynn was talking about in this article about ski cutting was pretty poignant, I thought, in that ski cutting is like sex. We all know it's happening. There's like kind of some ideas behind it, but why aren't we potentially teaching people to do it safely? So with that, we'll start. I mean, come on, you all laughed, so you're like, oh man, I did that before. Oopsie, right? You're like, oh shit, I got a kid, or oh shit, I'm in an avalanche. We'll get there. Yeah. Okay, so on that note, we're going to start with the questions, and all of these panelists have already got the questions, and some of them noted that they changed their answers or thoughts or ideas on it because of other people's points and comments in the email thread we had. So I'm going to start pretty simply. Morgan, this one's for you. What is it?
Mike?
Are these, oh, they're on. I believe that I said, and I stand by this, that a ski cut is, at least on skis, and I feel like you can speak to this more on a sled, but a traverse across an avalanche path with the intention of getting snow to move. But what it's not is going into that without an expectation of what's going to happen. So having an informed hypothesis of what you expect to happen when you do that, going from one island of safety to another.
Right. Duncan, can you expand on that from the snowmobiler perspective?
Sure. I think that there's some general differences when it comes to using a machine, especially in this regard, just because the maneuverability is highly different. On skis, you're able to utilize islands of safety within the terrain because you can traverse a slope fairly easily, or you already are. And on a machine, if you get into avalanche terrain, so we're talking steeper slopes, it's much harder to actually turn the sled on edge and get over to an island of safety or out of the start zone. So actually, fundamentally, in my eyes, a ski cut is generally not used on a snowmobile. So in my eyes, it's more of a test to gather information and look at reactivity.
So to that point, and I've got the questions and we'll just jump around with them, is with that, like for you as a snowmobile rider, like when do you use it?
So generally throughout the day on small inconsequential terrain, much like a slope test, and just looking for reactivity, initiation. So we also use it, or I also use it in different avalanche problems, not just new snow avalanche problems, but you can also just look for reactivity. Now I'm not basing decisions on it, just like we wouldn't base decisions on digging a pit. It's more of just information gathering. And generally really looking for cracking, initiation, and you can get other information like how deep the slab is, especially if you're like playing around on a wind-loaded feature, you're looking at the wind slab, then you can look at how deep the wind slab is there, how easily it initiated, and then you can take that information and apply it to other terrain you're tangoing with. But like I said, it's just so difficult to get out of the way. If you're gonna try and ski cut something on a sled and get over to the side of the start zone where you are out of the start zone, good luck. Like I have a hard time with that. I'm gonna be riding down the avalanche that I just triggered. And then we can get into slab versus loose snow.
Well, that's what I could see Mark kind of twitching as he was sitting next to you, and so I'm just going to jump to Mark with that. So Mark, Duncan talked about the when. Would you build on that a little bit for me?
I mean, for me, ski cutting is a passion, I would say, to be honest, and I think it's actually been I'm not joking, guys. It's been an invaluable part of my progression in the world of being an avalanche professional. Without ski cutting, I don't think I would be here. I've saved my own life doing it, and I've saved other people's life. When do I do it? I do it all the time, constantly. Every single ski run I've ever been on, there's a ski cut in it somewhere, for sure. And that's where, is it a test or a tool? For me, it's both. I definitely am doing both. When do I not use it? Then I think that's when I think a snowmobile potentially can still do it. But for me, if my skis aren't penetrating down to that weak layer, then I should not be there, right? So the concept of trying to ski cut a hard slab, I think is something that hopefully can be disseminated as information in training programs. That's the kind of information that people really need to understand is if you can't get down to that weak layer, then for me, you shouldn't be there. Like some vague notion of a pressure bubble as you're gliding across the top of some super hard slab. It's like, that's when I definitely don't do it. Yeah.
Can we ask questions?
Yeah, go for it. What's your question, Morgan?
Do you have a definitive hardness on?
No, I don't know if I would necessarily put a specific, has to be less than, X density or whatever. Not necessarily. It's all about whether I really am confident that I can actually trigger that thing, right? So I have to know that my skis are truly getting to the weak layer, and I have to be confident that I'm going to be able to trigger it in the manner that I think I can. Definitely, though, the spectrum leans toward soft snow. That's when we're all comfortable doing it. And as it does get more a harder slab and a stiffer slab, and triggerability, when you know already that it's something that's difficult to trigger, then my reticence to want to ski cut something definitely goes up and up and up, right? So it's not a black and white world, right? Yeah.
So to that, and we're talking about, these maybe parameters, or I think that's the best word, right? Like our densities, our depth, talking to this room and talking to younger professionals coming up, Chrissie, when do you teach this?
Yeah, that's a good question. So now I'm approaching ski cutting primarily as a mitigator on ski patrol. But I did, start out with Knowles teaching rec courses and then pro courses for AAI. And the way I used to teach it in those contexts was on non-consequential slopes to see what the reactivity of the new snow was. I was generally not teaching it to cut the entrances to couloirs. I was teaching people like, oh, you want to see how reactive this new snow is? Just like find a little wind lip and hop on that and see what happens. And then in the patrol realm, trying to do it really in a conscientious manner, because I do think it is one of the more dangerous ways that we mitigate avalanche hazard, because you're using your body to start an avalanche. And kind of creeping out on the terrain is my ideal. Like if you can start out on terrain and kind of see how reactive it is before you get into a bigger, more committing slope. So taking younger patrollers out and being really intentional about the way that I mentor them, making sure that they understand that we are only managing surface problems. And like Mark said, like if you're not sinking down to the weak layer, you need an escape route. And I've definitely been in situations where I was ski cutting and all of a sudden I was like, I don't have an escape route and I hate this and I wish I wasn't here. Just trying to like make people aware of the hazards. And I think, patrollers, the way you learn this is you have to go out and do it. We can talk about it theoretically in the classroom, but until you get hands-on in the snow and kind of see what happens and look at the terrain, you're not really going to learn how to ski cut without that experience.
Yeah. So you talked a lot there about the patrollers, right? And the patrollers that are in the room, we do a lot of it. But, Lisa has had the fortune of being a patroller as well as an accomplished mountain guide. And so my question to you, Lisa, is, should this be used as a mitigation tool for backcountry ski guides?
Yes.
And why?
Well, of course. So I'll start by quoting Rich Bearwell. And see moving snow is the most valuable lesson you can get if you want to be an avalanche trained. And that's where I guess I kind of differed on the pro versus rec day. Like, I think anyone who wants to go out there needs to start to think about what does moving snow look like. And that doesn't mean you start by ski cutting big slopes, but you do want to do like more test slopes, sort of what you were speaking to as far as what you do with a snow machine. It's like, yeah, you get on those test slopes, and I definitely think by the time you're actually ski cutting, like I'd say the dragon you're playing with. Like you have a really good idea of what you're getting into. If you don't have a good plan, you shouldn't be giving it a shot. I mean, as a ski guide, and there's so many different types, but yeah, advance the flow. Like you gotta mitigate the hazard if you're putting people on the slope.
Right. So to that, Duncan, your role as an educator and almost exclusively, right, teaching snow machiners, at what point do you begin teaching that to your students? What is their level of experience?
Using it as a test and information gathering that I do, I start teaching it any day on the snow. It's just part of my observations rule book. Like you need to see moving snow. And if you can understand more about the problem for that day and you can go gather this information, I think it's one of the most vital points of contact with the avalanche problem that you can find. Just because you on a sled, not to mention the way we do it turns out to be one of the most fun ways to ride a snowmobile. Wheelie turns and,
I was gonna say, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So
you can start throwing the terms around because all the ski dorks in here are like, what is he talking about?
Well, anytime you can find a really steep, small slope that can't bury you, insert re-entries, hopovers, sick wheelies, and like you're shredding the shit out of that slope.
There we go. Somebody had to swear. We'll just get that out of the way. Everyone can, yeah.
Can I actually ask a question while I'm here?
Absolutely.
It's kind of to all of you, like at what, it's almost like what's not so much the danger rating that you would maybe not like stop ski cutting a slope at, but at what point do you decide not to ski cut the slope and turn around and choose plan B? Because for sledders, a lot of times we will say go or no go, I'm not getting on that slope because the problem's there, I'm most likely gonna trigger it, like let's go ride something else.
Any deep, like there's a lot of things I can't trigger as a ski cutter, and I'm not that big, right? So I gotta be super choosy. And even if you are big, you're kidding yourself. And like avalanches are way faster than we think they are. Like we all saw Hammery's study of like, no, sorry scientists, your equation didn't do it right. Look at my videos. Like avalanches are super fast. You're not gonna outrun them. If you are, you're lucky. I mean, that's the new Avalanche Hour podcast that just came out with Kimbrough. He talks about like, it really does come down to luck. So set your margins well. I mean, it's like hard slabs, persistent slabs. Like I said, know your dragon.
You're cutting those or you're not cutting them?
Oh, you're definitely cutting them. You're cutting them. I'm not. Right? No. But yeah, if it's a deeper, persistent problem, sure, a surface ore layer that just got buried. Like I was out last year with Bill, and that we were like touching these things, and you couldn't even feel the volume. It was like shatter all around you. It was like the best lesson day, but you couldn't feel the volume. But I've also been out as a mitigator, as a ski patroller, and like you put your tips coming out of Corbett's into S&S, and you're just like, oh God, like it's trying to suck me in, right? So it's just expect it to be more forceful than you think. And you learn that from the small slopes, like you're saying. Do you have more?
I love ski cutting. My name's Mark.
You can, it's okay. This is a safe space, Mark.
Is this a safe space?
This is a safe space. Until we get to the bar, then it's all bets are off. Perfect.
I would say my risk tolerance has definitely changed over the years, for sure. And at this point now, I admittedly do ride a desk quite a bit, so my skills aren't quite as sharp as they used to be. But there was a period of time when I would say I probably, 50% hubris and 50% I really knew my stuff and I knew my location. And I triggered some pretty big avalanches in my day, for sure. And I did it very confidently, and I did it to protect the people that were paying me to take them skiing. I was there to deliver a product, and I took people skiing down things where there was no other option. I had to ski cut a slope to get out of here. And I took people down there, and I did that. That was what I did back in the day. I do believe that, times are changing, and expectations of guides and expectations of how we treat workers have changed, for sure. I don't think it's necessarily the cowboy show that I probably ran at times in my life. So I do believe it's eased up. But yeah, I think there's so much that goes into deciding when is too much, when is it too much, and personal risk tolerances, company risk tolerances, and so much about the actual feature and the snowpack and all the things that Lisa was talking about there. So much goes into it. It's not a simple question for me, for sure, yeah.
So to that.
I want to ask you at the bar later, what size was the largest that you ski cut?
Safe
You don't have to answer right now. I'm going to ask you later.
Is this a safe place?
You're good.
You don't have to answer it.
I've definitely triggered 2.5s and 3s.
Wow.
Yeah, I have.
And you're from Canada. That's
Yeah,
solid.
yeah.
Yeah, let's give it up
Not
to the
sure
Canadians in the room real quick. I think there's 4 of you here. So you guys talked a little bit there in these zones and these parameters, but I kind of want to dig in just a little bit, and this is for both Chrissie and Morgan, and kind of in talking about specifics to like, how do we teach it, right? Like, how do you teach your patrollers, and then how do you teach up-and-coming guides or maybe advanced recreationists?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes back to that mentorship piece. Like when we're setting up routes, we just try and make sure that we have a more senior patroller who knows the route really well, paired up with someone who might not know it as well. And, you know, like what I want to see is reactive snow. Like Morgan said, you go out with a hypothesis and hope to see that happen. And if it doesn't, take a step back and be like, okay, is this still the right tool, or are we trying to ski cut a hard slab that isn't going to fail until we're out on it? Yeah, but I think it's the mentorship piece is just huge, because you can't learn this from a textbook. Like, you have to go out and do it and see that moving snow, as we've spoken about. But yeah, when I'm mentoring younger patrollers, I'm like, here's what I think I'm gonna see. Try and be like really specific about where I think they should go. Is that kind of what you're asking? Like,
Yeah, and that's why we can jump to Morgan next. You know, in the guiding realm, especially around here, at times I've heard people discuss like, oh, we shouldn't be skiing the terrain if we have to ski cut it. And Morgan, I want your thought on that. Like, why do you ski cut terrain with your clients?
I think, as Lisa got into a little bit, and Mark certainly has gone into, I think often ski cutting as a ski guide is to protect and help manage people that you're skiing with in order to keep them from finding moving snow unexpectedly. And so I can go and ski cut a pocket or get snow to move that I expect to move so that they don't have that happen to them. And that certainly is more in like the less about the teaching and more just about how I use it as a day-to-day tool. But I think from a teaching perspective, in my experience, people really like hard parameters, and that doesn't work all the time in the Avalanche world. But the ones that I use are about hardness and depth and the type of problem, and mainly the type of terrain. Like, is it appropriate terrain to be ski cutting in? And I think often when ski cutting is your only tool as a mitigator, like, which is true when you're a human-powered ski guide, that's your only tool. You have to just be really thoughtful about where you're using it. And I like to talk about like truly confined terrain and like real safe zones and what that looks like. You know, you can't ski cut a big open face when you don't have somewhere to go. That's not gonna work. And like even in confined terrain, like in a couloir, are you actually getting to a spot that would put you in a safe place, or are you still in the path and trying to like teach what like a really good safe zone looks like? And then again, speaking to the specific like problems, depths, hardness, and trying to put really specific parameters on it so that people know, yes, this is a really useful tool and you should know how to use it, but know when to use it and when it's appropriate.
Right. So this question is for everybody, and it's a yes or no answer. Should we teach recreationists?
No, just kidding, yes.
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 I mean, yes, but it's, yeah, yes. Slightly different. I feel like it's different than what y'all are doing.
Yes, no answer. It depends.
I have been more in the mitigator world the last couple of years, and I did not realize that it was being taught to recreationists at the levels that it was. And that really...
Well, around here we have advanced courses.
Yeah, yeah, sure do. Yeah, so I did not know how widespread it was becoming, because as I mentioned before, I just taught people on small little test slopes, and then you have people ski cutting the face of Taylor and covering Coal Creek exit.
That's a slightly different situation, but yes, there are some individuals who think they can mitigate the hazard everywhere, and yeah, it's...
I would argue
like,
that's inappropriate terrain for ski cutting.
yeah, it can be dangerous, but I'll say from my own personal experience coming here as a recreational skier, like, I'm from the East Coast. I knew one thing, fall line. And I learned how to ski cut because I kept getting avalanche, and it was getting really annoying. I was losing all my ski poles and my skis. And so, yeah, it's like, okay, we got to come up with another system before we go fall line, we go hard right or hard left. So maybe that's why I'm an advocate. Like, if you're going to go out there, like, and you don't, nobody needs to launch into the deep end of the pool right away, but you might find yourself there eventually.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
so coming from the mitigator standpoint, We have the luxury at the ski resort of A, being able to close terrain and make sure there's no one below us. And B, we also spend a lot of time beating down the persistent slab problems we have in Colorado, and you don't ski cut until we feel fairly confident that we're not gonna awaken that dragon. So for you all, working as guides and more in the backcountry, do you have thoughts on that, or?
I just think it's kind of unavoidable that there's going to be interactions with people in the backcountry or wherever, and that's hopefully part of the education of teaching someone to ski cut, is that they need to be respectful of everyone else in the mountains, have a good look around, hopefully be aware of who's below them, if there is people below them, that kind of thing. But I mean, to get back to the original question, for me, it's an invaluable thing. It's like I said, I truly cut my teeth on avalanches by going out with friends that knew absolutely nothing like me and figuring out what can I do in the mountains today. And often that was this is the instability, can we go trigger it, where can we trigger it? That's how I learned about the mountains myself. So I think we do a disservice to people by not teaching them that skill. But again, it's what you teach and how you teach it. So are you teaching, you want to go ski, I'm not sure what the mega line you were talking about there is, but you want to go ski mega line X? Yeah, you just, this is how you'd ski cut that monster feature before you go kill yourself. No, it should be taught as these are probably things that are going to help you learn about small features, about terrain, about snow in small controlled ways. I'm not necessarily going to explain to them that you're going to use this as a mitigation tool for you and all your friends to, send it off of some huge peak somewhere, right? So what are we teaching and how are we teaching those people, as opposed to the professional side of things? Well, I think I've already expressed that I do that a little differently myself, right? As a professional and definitely guiding people. So, I think it's invaluable though. I wouldn't stress that enough for myself teaching.
So you're saying, like sex, we should just talk about it?
We should just talk about it all the time.
Okay.
Preaching abstinence has never worked.
Yeah, on that note, let's give it up to the panel real quick. Like, this has been pretty good. I had an idea where it would go. I kind of went there. I know, I had to. I couldn't help it. So, but I do want to open it up to the audience because, like I said, I pushed for years to let everybody get a beer before the panel, and I really hope that's working right now. And I see some Alaska heli ski guides sitting in the audience, and I'd love to get some of them to chime in. Oh, they still have your mic off. It's perfect.
Jake has a question. Hang on, wait. You wait. Good boy.
I'm with you, Mark. I ski cut lots of big avalanches too. But my question is, there's lots of discussion up here about types of avalanches and avalanche problems in depth. But where do you bring terrain consequences into your ski cutting decisions?
Bueller?
It's integral. It's all of it. Yeah, I mean, avalanches for me as well. I have been at it 30 plus years, and the longer I do it, the less I know about snow, but the more I know about terrain. So it's actually all about terrain for me. If I'm going to teach someone how to do ski cuts, I definitely am starting on the terrain side of things and easing them into the snow side of things, for sure, for myself.
So to build on that, just for Duncan, like, what's your approach with the terrain-wise for your students and people you're teaching about it?
I mean, like Mark said, terrain's the key, right? Because without it, no issue. But generally, like, inconsequential is what we're using, or I'm focusing on, especially when teaching, because most people coming into the courses don't have the experience or the knowledge base, and keeping it inconsequential and like really driving home that fact, because like I mentioned, on a sled, we're less maneuverable on steeper slopes. Like, our option is kind of down unless you can get across somehow because the terrain changes. But yeah, inconsequential is just something to really, really drive home. If you can get buried, you should not be trying to tickle the dragon.
I've got another question in the back. Can y'all help me in the middle? You're targeted.
Well, that's going across. I'm going to put one more thought out there for the terrain piece is like there's terrain that we can ski cut, and then there's terrain that we might ski check. And ski cut is like, I'm here to advance the flow, right? Like I'm ready to push the snow down the hill in some manner because I really think it's going to slide. And in my mind, that terrain needs to have an egress. Like you need to be able to be somewhat slid down the slope. Versus if I'm like committing to a slope where I'm pretty dang sure there's no way it's gonna avalanche and that's why there's a big cliff below it, maybe I put in like a ski check to see if I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot.
Wait, what is the ski check?
It's like-
What are the consequences or?
Well, it's like the same idea as a ski cut, but you're not like trying, you don't think you're gonna trigger anything, right?
But then if you do, the consequences are bad.
Deadly.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just checking.
But like that's a pretty common thing, right? Like you're there because you think you can be there, but maybe there's a small wind slab that you didn't anticipate. Wouldn't you rather know before you're fully on it?
But the knowing is deadly.
Well, so you're just going to rule out that terrain altogether?
Yeah, okay.
Never go there, which is an option. But like Morgan said, that doesn't happen. Abstinence. People go. And we got a lot of big terrain over cliffs around here.
Okay, we're gonna go to the question. You two can leg wrestle at the bar. In the back.
So you guys have sort of talked about the two options, is turn around or ski cut it, but I feel like there's the third option, is the belayed ski cut, which if we're gonna continue our abstinence conversation, feels like using protection. So where does that fit in?
So to that question, and that was the question came up with the belayed ski cut, and like I had the opportunity to talk to every single one of these panelists. I will note that not a single conversation was shorter than 38 minutes. So just to give you an idea of how it went. So, but I am going to hand this right to Mark because we talked specifically about this, and I thought he had a really good point.
Yeah, I have never used protection. I've been married a long time. I think it's a tool that you need to have in your pocket. You need to be ready to manage with the rope if you feel that is your only option. But I think if that's where you've gotten to, that you truly are so worried about this feature that it's in order to trigger it, the potential of you getting swept down the slope is so high you need a rope, then to me you should not be there. That's just not something you should be playing with. That's how I've always kind of looked at that. However, as well in a mitigation sense, there is, I think, moments when it does also potentially make sense. And that's more becomes an OHS thing, I think, where it's like, I think the tide is turning a little bit, sadly, for me personally. OHS regulations and people wanting that extra level of safety, and this is just unacceptable, this is unacceptable, we can't people put at risk, et cetera, et cetera. And so they might want a rope involved to ensure someone's safety. But I wouldn't want to be putting that rope on if I didn't absolutely know what was going to happen. That answers your question.
Morgan, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think I just very much agree that if you don't think you should be ski cutting something, a rope shouldn't change that.
Any other questions? In the front, recently crowned Avalanche Center Director of the Payette Avalanche Center. Oh, look out. That's why we wanted the beers to get going.
The box. So I think it's really hard for us to look into the lens of a recreator. I like the distinction between a test and a tool. I think we think so much about this stuff, we live in it, right? And it's a lot harder to think about teaching recreators mitigator tools? Because, like, do you think there's risk creep at all with that? Because more users are getting caught in terrain identified in avalanche forecast because they think they can control the problem that they don't necessarily understand as much as we might, especially retrospectively.
I think
That's long, I'm sorry.
No, I mean, my thought with that is like, where are they getting the mentorship on how to ski cut? And it just seems like maybe hard to access that in the recreational community. And I think that's the most important part of learning how to do it. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a thought I have.
Yeah, I think there's potentially a huge gap for recreationalists, fully agree. You know, it's all on them, just like we're all out there doing it and having at the mountains the way we want to have at the mountains, and hopefully they've gotten some good instruction, and hopefully they can find a good friend group that can get out there with them and work with them on those kind of things and give them that mentorship. I think, for me, I think recreationally, myself, yeah, as you know, it's a bit hard to distinguish anymore. You know, am I a recreationalist or a professional? No, those days are gone. You know, really, I guess I am. That's it. I'm out there. I'm a professional. I ski cut all the time. Yeah, but would I recommend that that's what people do and that they do it to mitigate something they want to go ski? No, that's not how I would lay it out there for someone that I'm teaching to go and have a good time in the backcountry. Their goal should be testing and avoidance to have a good time, not a professional sense, which is I need to deliver a product, and sometimes that means mitigation.
We do have one more audience question over here.
The big man.
Oh boy.
Just a quick question for everyone up there. Coming from a ski patrol industrial background, you know, during the earlier part of my career, we were ski cutting up to size 2s, 2.5s, like Mark is stating. At one point, you know, our crew, after watching 2 workers go down in size 3s over cliffs and getting quite hurt, we implemented, if we're expecting anything larger than a size 1.5, we're going to be throwing shots. At what point do you think it's time to bring shots and not ski cut?
I mean, I think we kind of all talked about this at some point when we were on our phone calls, and a lot of it, and sir, please state your name.
Brenden Schmidt.
Welcome to the program, Brenden.
Thanks for allowing us Canadians down here.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad you made it through the border. So one thing that I think of right away is the fact you have to, do not do that. No, you have to have those parameters in these different businesses that we work in, right? And that's going to vary from operation to operation. I think for me it comes down to specifically the amount of snow. Well, there's 3 things: the amount of snow, the density of it, and the wind. Right before we even go out the door. And Chrissie and I kind of talked about that a little bit. And she used the word default at one point for ski cutting, and I instantly bristled. I was like, "You're telling me ski cutting is your default?" And she's like, "No, default wasn't the word." What was the word?
That's the starting point.
Yeah.
It's like when we know we're getting snow and wind overnight that seems like it might be significant. Yeah, I did use the word default, but it's like that's where we'll start and see how reactive the snow is. And if it's reactive and the ski cutting's working, we'll continue on. But if it's not, and we're not getting the results that we want, we will, you know, pull back and call for shots. And hopefully we can make that call before the teams go out. But if we don't, you know, we're conservative and we're like, no, we're going back inside. We're not going to open this yet. Ideally, management is not pressuring us. They're pretty good about it.
Lisa?
We got a retort.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
This is just a question like for Chrissie at Vail, like in 2025, what is your risk management people at the ski hills taste for people's ski cutting size 2s?
I don't know that our risk management people know what a size 2 is. But they are supportive of us not getting hurt. Yeah, that is nice. I think D 1.5 is a good kind of marker, but sometimes you don't know what you're gonna get also. But you know, as long as the snow's reactive, it's breaking at our skis, that's when I feel good about ski cutting.
Can I throw something in? Because I've got.
We know you will.
Yeah, whether you tell me I can or not. But one tool that I haven't really heard referred to specifically is the conceptual model. And I think you guys have been using some of the terms from the conceptual model, and that's what I think is going to bridge the gap between professionals and recreationists, is if in high-level recreational skiing, people are taught the conceptual model, and they're able to understand, okay, what does this look like? What's the sensitivity? What's the distribution? What are other aspects?
Hey, Lynn, real quick, the conceptual model of what?
Oh, I'm gonna punt that to you.
Well, I mean, you gotta, like, there might be people in the room that don't know that it's the conceptual model of avalanche hazard.
Does anyone not know that? What is it? Conceptual model of avalanche hazard, the SEMA. And this was brought, it's, could be under review by the next ISSW. You don't want to get me going on this. It was like the worst email thread in the universe, but seriously. But it's a framework that we teach with. And it's, to me, as an avalanche professional, albeit a little jaded, it's a framework that I use to make my decisions by. Right. And so I'd really like to hear us as professionals use that in both, I mean, we use it in professional courses, but to use it in recreational courses, and I think that's the bridge. All right, back
You mean
to
like
you. Back
talking
to you,
about
Brenden.
sex when people are younger? Like bringing it into the fold earlier on versus like waiting until people are professionals to start talking about it?
Oh, you're gonna make me start talking about teenage sex. All right, never mind.
Yeah, we got.
Wait, Maddie's got a question. Maddie, she's our queen.
I was curious if we're talking sex over here, like any stories about the baby, like any stories of when the thing went wrong, or you heard about either someone doing it and it really propagated something big, and any personal experiences that you want to speak to when you did see something move and it hurt someone else, or it caused something problematic to happen for folks traveling below, or, you know, it was terrain that wasn't supposed to be ski cut.
Good question.
I could say for myself, currently, like I said, everyone, whether you heard it or not, I did my talk this morning about the mine, and we've actually had 2 ski cutting incidents that we've been reviewing heavily and adjusting procedures, et cetera, coming back to Braden's question. Essentially, it's less than size 2 in Canada is pretty much a standard these days for OH&S. But specifically the 2 incidents that occurred for us, we had someone, one of our techs, on a night shift after a control mission, thought it was time to go do a little cleanup with some ski cutting, and it was a hard slab he was messing around with. Playing around by himself with a hard slab, well, sorry, not by himself, with his partner, and he had opened the road below him. So he was messing around. It was a short slope, and he did kick off an avalanche. He went for a short ride and got away from it, and the snow ended up on the road, and a whole bunch of people got scared, and so big review and big problems for sure. So hard slab, definitely, that was the one that bit our guys. Someone playing around when they shouldn't. And then the other one was not quite as obvious when the technician went in, and this was just last winter, but a technician went in on a slope that he wanted to ski cut, and turned out he got halfway through and he had kind of walked his way in a little way before he was gonna zip off to the other side, and it turned out it was actually super shallow rocky terrain, and he couldn't ski out. He was stuck walking through the shallow rocky terrain and ended up kind of wanting to get underneath the rocky terrain back into the snowpack, And when he got back into the snowpack, he triggered it and went for a ride because he had no forward motion, right? So again, you know, those are the two things we talked about, right, that are super important in ski cutting, which is the snow part of it, hard slab, bad idea, and then the terrain part of it. Are you sure that this is actually gonna work out in your favor? What's the shape of it? What's the nature of it? You know, is there rocks there? Kind of a key thing in that particular one, yeah.
So Maddie, do we have time for one more question, or where are we at?
We got time for just a little bit.
This has us out in 11 minutes, so.
Okay.
It depends if,
I got a question that piggybacks on that one.
Yeah.
What, we have somebody up top that's got a
Lynn, he's pretty loud.
I can yell.
kitchen. Of course you are.
How do you guys decide when it's okay to ski cut or not? Like, there's been some high-profile incidents in Grand Canyon, Taylor, all that, where people are ski cutting, and there's obviously people traversing below. Is that just if you know there's people below, you don't ski cut, or how do you guys decide when to do that? And especially the Tetons getting a lot of traffic, it seems like you're putting other people at risk if you don't know who's below you. So how do you factor that into your decisions?
Repeat the question. Repeat the question.
The question was, how do you know when it's appropriate to ski cut? Because there might be people below you. Sorry, Cronin, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
Oh, you go for it, girl.
You got an answer?
Oh man, do I? I think that brings up a pretty good point, and it's probably a good one to sort out at the bar, because and this is where it's tricky, right? Like, you know, I no longer work for the Wyoming Department of Transportation, so I probably feel a little more comfortable now saying this out loud, that at some point, I believe that if you're recreating in the backcountry, you need to be aware of what's above you. And the people above, on the top of the slope, need to be aware of what's below. But we've all bought the ticket to the ride. You chose to go out there. You know that you are in Granite Canyon, and that's your decision. You know that there's people above you, and there might be people coming out. So I think the default answer is it depends, right? Like, it depends on the day. Like, I mean, how many times have people in this room been coming out Coal Creek or out of Granite Canyon, and they're like hanging out under Avalanche Pass? That's your decision.
Yeah, I'd say personally, if I'm gonna ski cut something, hopefully if I'm in the backcountry in an area that's high traffic, I can clear the slope visually.
Right.
That doesn't always happen, you know? And I think situational awareness on both parties. If it's a considerable hazard day and we're hanging out at the bottom of Avalanche Pass, I feel like we're not making good decisions either. And so, yeah, it's be in the right place at the right time.
I think that question just brings up for me the skepticism and concern I have about teaching recreationists who just might not have the self-awareness, the judgment, the experience to know when they should or should not be ski cutting things. So that's my hesitance with that. It's like hard to talk about it in a level one and set someone free. And there's just a big gap between talking about it and then actually being able to do it well and making the good decisions about when to do it.
Here's my question to that. Do you think people will ski the terrain regardless?
Yeah.
So they're gonna trigger it, and now we'll have multiple people caught.
And I think there's a place to like introduce a topic without teaching like execution in recreational courses, so that maybe that person will not go into Granite Canyon, hang out below an avalanche path if they know that, whatever, draw some awareness to it.
And I don't know what the answer is, Lisa. Like, I just...
This topic is interesting in the motorized community because you need to understand what other groups are out there already, because there are multiple situations where other groups have been caught in avalanches and died due to not knowing who else is below you. So I think you need to have just a greater understanding of what's going on around you and what other groups are out there, especially if you're going to specifically trigger an avalanche. Pay attention to who's below you.
I get it may have come across that I'm like this crazy cowboy in the mountains, but
That's why we love you, Mark.
but in fact, in terms of my terrain choices and how I walk around in the mountains, I am originally a ski guide, and if you follow my track around the mountains, I am like the most conservative track setter ever, and that's how I was brought up. You know, that's how I was trained, and that's what I was shown in the mountains. My tracks going up the mountains, and in general, most of my tracks coming down the mountains are extremely conservative. But then to come to this point, I think the problem is as the years went on and I got older and I'm continuing to go into the backcountry with my own friends recreationally, what I saw again and again and more and more and more is recreationalists doing things that I just thought no one would ever do. Like, why are you up-tracking that? And so that, I think, does bring up a very good point for you, is that you could end up in scenarios where, yeah, someone has up-tracked in a nice, safe location, got to a very steep feature, and there is no way in my mind, as a mountain professional, ever thinking someone would up-track a certain feature. But in fact, that's what's happening now, is people are up-tracking things that I just would never imagine. They're going places in the mountains, going places in certain ways that, to myself as a mountain professional, I'm like, I have no idea why you're doing that.
Yeah.
That just makes no sense to me. I don't know who taught you this. I don't know where you got this from, but this is crazy. And that's what's happening all over. And specifically for the Rogers Pass is the example. You would go to Rogers Pass now, and when I originally would play there was very specific routes that everyone used because that's the safe way to get to those slopes to ski. And now, no, the place is a mogul field of up tracks.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable. So then you're gonna ski cut something, to me, you definitely better have good line of sight on what you're doing and making sure no one's below you. To me, it's about the person that's doing the ski cut and really being sure of what you're doing below you. That's when I choose to ski cut, is when I know I'm gonna trigger something and I know it's not gonna hit anyone because there's no one there.
Yeah. And so on that note, like I said earlier, none of the conversations with these individuals were less than 38 minutes. We are gonna get kicked out in 5. Let's give it up for the panel.
I'm just going to say, apparently I need to start a Ski Cutters Anonymous group, so that'll start at the bar tonight. We're going to have our inaugural meeting, I think. It seems
Perfect
like.
timing
So,
for that.
yeah, just let me know.